Welcome to Mirage. This is Bryan Aiello. Today we're going to be discussing slasher fiction with Lee Forman. You just what did I see on Twitter just recently? A big box of books, gorgeous cover,
Oh, yeah, that's my book. Finally got it published.
fantastic, man.
Yeah.
You're not indie though. That's through a publisher, right?
Nope. I published it myself.
That was a really who did the cover? I know who did the cover. I have an interview scheduled with her. Do I? Who did the cover?
Oh, Nina D'Arcangela.
Cool. Yeah, I've seen her around. She does good work. Have you
Yeah,
had
she does.
covers done through her before?
Nope. She did this one, and I've also got a short story collection coming out, and she did the cover for that as well.
Yeah, cool. Is she part of your group? Like you have a group of writers and content producers and whatnot, right? Or did you go outsource for her?
No, actually, she's one of the owners of Sirens Call Publications, the company I
Oh
work
yeah.
for.
Okay.
And so she does the cover design for them, and then we work together on with Pen of the Damned as well.
It's a neat skill to have, man. I play around with
Yeah,
Photoshop. I just can't seem to get that same kind of quality that book covers have. It's a certain type of eye,
it's
I guess.
tough.
Yeah.
I've tried to design a few myself, and they were mediocre at best.
Did you end up outsource? Did you end up paying for covers then too, or did you just stick with yours?
Yeah, I just stuck with mine. They were just for like short stories on Amazon and stuff. So, and they
Yeah.
weren't too bad. So I didn't want to go out and pay a lot of money for a short story on Amazon that I'd probably never make back. So,
Exactly. Some people do though, right? Make a little money back off that stuff. I guess.
yeah,
I
I
don't
mean, it's
know.
possible you can, but it's harder to sell a short story on Amazon than a book.
Yeah.
But
It's hard to sell anything on Amazon if you don't have a name. I mean, that's a
yeah.
totally different subject, right? I mean, marketing on Amazon, getting people to buy your stuff. I
Oh
mean, I
yeah,
don't know.
I've been working my ass off trying to market it and advertise it and do everything I can.
How does marketing look like for you?
I don't know. I just I just take whatever opportunities come up. I advertise online obviously. I get to know local store owners. Like I go to this comic shop all the time and I got to know the guy and I told him about the book and so he's going to sell the book at his store. So that's one way I've got it out there. Uh, Gone to the local library. I'm going to do a book talk there. There's a bookstore in another town that I'm going to go to. They have like a local author section there. So just plugging it everywhere I can.
Yeah, I guess that's what you do, right? I mean, it's so hard, but you're also submitting work to publications and getting your name out there professionally like that too. I think that's the best thing to do, right? I mean, if you
Yeah,
have
that's
work, if somebody likes you in a magazine, they're going to come looking for other stuff that you have.
yeah, that's why I started with short fiction and just getting as many things published as I could before I went right into a book.
Right.
Because I figured if I write a book, no one knows no one can read anything else I've written. So good
I
luck
mean,
selling it.
as novels are hard though, right? I mean, I wouldn't want to say I'll wait to write a novel. I want to write a novel while I'm figuring it out more than I'm that type of dude though. With the podcast, especially, I have no clue I still have no clue what I'm doing. But every single new episode or new interview I do, I just kind of blunder ahead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a learning process.
Yeah.
The first one of the first things I ever wrote was a novel, but it was just terrible. So I never did anything with it. And I work on multiple ones at a time. I've
Yeah.
got two more in the
How could you
works.
not, right? I mean, you have ideas that just stream out of you all the time. A sentence here, a paragraph there, or a flash story that turns into a short story, or a short story that turns into something much longer. I mean, I don't know one novel that you're constantly working on. How boring would that be,
Yeah,
right?
I can't work on one thing at a time. If I come up with an idea, I've got to work on it. At
Yeah.
least get it started.
At least get it started, get something on paper, at least have a project going. I mean, have an idea, like a deadline at the end of the day. Have you written slasher fiction before? Have you played around with this particular
No,
subgenre of
not
horror?
really actually. I don't believe I've written a lot of slasher stuff.
I don't know
Uh
either, right? And that's the question. What exactly is the definition of a slasher type story?
Yeah, I was wondering that myself, because
Did
I
you
was
find
trying to
out?
think
Because
of.
the answer that I got was that it had to have some kind of knife, right? I mean, a slasher. That's an obvious one, right? It's like a no-brainer, a slasher knife,
Yeah,
and it has to be
knife,
unstoppable.
axe, hatchet, machete,
What do
some
we think
kind
about?
of
We think about Michael
mutilating.
Myers, right? Jason, Friday
Yeah,
the
Michael
13th,
Myers.
Freddy Krueger. They're all knife dudes, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah,
seen
that
all those
then there's
movies.
some other ones too that are considered slashers, like Driller Killer. It's a guy with a drill. He goes around killing people with a drill. So
He's still puncturing, right? He's still like physically coming within arm's reach. That's an element of it, isn't it? He's not trying to stop you
yeah.
from a distance. He's like coming close to you. You could probably smell him, right? You could hear his breath and stuff, and he's reaching out for you with this thing, and you're gonna feel it, right? I've heard getting stabbed is like the worst pain that you could possibly ever experience,
Oh,
and
I can't imagine.
rapidly ending life at that moment, right? But I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
that's a bad way to go.
right?
It's
It's
a
not like a
really bad
sniper
way.
where you used to go, right? I mean, boom, you're dead, and you might feel a little bit of pain or whatever. You're gonna feel the pain and the fear and the sensory stuff, right? I mean, it's all about sensory in these things. What was the first slasher movie you saw? Do you remember? Does it
Uh,
vividly make a
yes,
memory?
it does actually. The first one I ever saw was Friday the 13th. And I had to have been
The
maybe
original 1,
6 years old. Yeah, the original.
the first one. Is that
And
the best one to watch? Though? That's not even like the rest of them. That's like
yeah,
Halloween
I
3,
think
isn't
it's
it?
the best one. It was always my favorite. But that was the first and one of the only movies that ever scared me because I was so young when I saw it. And my sister made me watch it. So, I was forced to sit there and watch this thing scared the whole time.
How do you feel about hockey masks today?
I actually have a Jason hockey mask on my
Do you?
living room wall. Yeah.
For me, it was Michael Myers, dude. Michael Myers scared the shit out of me, but he was not the first one I watched. Or was he? He might have been the first one I watched. Halloween #1, and then Halloween #2. They're some of the best horror movies. Those two movies specifically.
Yeah, and especially for when they came out, that was like a real fear then of all the serial killers and just safety in neighborhoods and violence and
Yeah,
all those things.
I'm reading Helter Skelter right now. I'm kind of reading it, trying to get through it. It's interesting. This kind of follows that motif, right? But there's a cult, and they stab too, but there's guns. I don't know, slashers. I mean, have you read a lot of slasher fiction?
I actually haven't. I mean, I've read some slasher short fiction, a lot of short fiction.
How does that
No
go?
novels though.
No novels.
Uh yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's done in I've seen it done in different ways, interesting ways. Uh I mean, I think it's a harder genre to write than it is to make a movie out of because you have to
Yeah.
build that tension and the chase and trying to get away and the murder scenes. I think are better represented visually than through writing.
It's the person escaping has to be weak though too, right? I mean, there's got to be some kind of weakness hobbling them, keeping them from being able to just sprint away to freedom.
Most of the time, it's just tripping and falling over something. But
Well, it's like
yeah,
going back to Halloween, right? She had the kids, didn't she? She was babysitting. Wasn't she trying to look after the kids, or am I wrong?
yeah,
Was
I
there?
think so. It's been so long since I've watched any of these movies. I grew up on them,
Yeah.
but it's been so like my memory's kind of hazy on watching them. It's been forever.
But Jason
But
pops up. I mean, this is not mythological, but this is a guy with some kind of a cult thing going on too, right? I mean, we're not
it's
like
weird. It's almost supernatural because I
supernatural is
mean,
the word I was looking for. Thank you.
like it's not obviously supernatural like Freddy Krueger or Jason who keeps coming back to life, but he's just like this guy that you can't kill. Like he's just invincible. And it's
And
there's
why?
never they
Yeah.
never say why. Yeah, like he's not, undead or any kind of thing like that. He's just this big guy.
And you can go like serious with it, right? Or you can go completely campy. Like you were talking about the driller. What was that character's name? The
Driller killer.
driller?
Yeah.
I mean, you can go retarded. I mean, not retarded, but you can go bad or you can go I don't know, fantastic. What's fantastic, or are they all bad? I mean, once you start picking at the surface of stuff, everything tends to kind of fall apart, doesn't it? I mean, there's
Yeah,
really there's
it
no
all
substance
depends.
to
I
any
mean,
of this.
I've seen some good ones. I've seen some more serious. If as a comparison, I mean, the '80s were really the heyday of it, but there've been coming out more recently some really good movies. I saw what was it called? It was Don't Breathe, and it was a slasher film, but it was done differently, where the person being chased, she was a deaf woman, and she lived in the middle of nowhere in this house in the woods. And so that was like her disadvantage in the situation. This guy's got her trapped in the house and she's deaf, so it's hard for her to like keep track of where he is. And it was like a really good movie, just like her using things to her advantage and him. And it was like a going back and forth between who had leverage against who. And it was a very serious movie. And then there's also, I don't know if you've seen Tucker and Dale versus
Oh
Evil.
God, yeah, that was so good.
Yeah,
That was
that's
so good. I love
hilarious.
movies that turn things on their ear like that. Like you have all these tropes, and it goes, okay, well, we're just gonna flip it all upside down. That was really
Yeah, I
cool.
love it.
But I think I'm also a big fan of Adam Tudyk, though. I accidentally see a lot
Yeah.
of movies that he's in, which is odd, right? I'm not aiming for anything that he's in, but I do see a lot of movies that he's in. He was in Star Wars. I mean, that was just unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, he's all over the place. And
Wait,
he played a good role in Tucker
yeah,
and Dale versus Evil. Like he really nailed that character.
I think so too. I mean, what do you have? Two guys that are on vacation at a cabin, and they're happened upon by a bunch of college kids who mistake them for crazy spree killer, serial killer type people, right? And then accidents start happening. But at the end of it, it starts getting a little bit convoluted. I think the plot got away at the end. Like it was a great
It got a
premise.
little weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, there was a bad guy after all. The kid was warped or killing people or something along those lines or something odd to that effect. But yeah, it was really great, right? I mean, what a great idea in terms of slasher movies. Um,
Yeah, because you got these two guys that are like the nicest guys ever, and all these kids think they're these crazy serial killers.
it's like I mean, I guess Scream kind of did that too, didn't it? Back in the day, 1996 when it came out, that mask. Remember, that's iconic now, or at least it used to be. I don't know if kids still consider that iconic.
Yeah, they still wear them every year for Halloween.
Oh yeah. Um, I mean, that was interesting, right? It was kind of wasn't that Courtney Cox was in it and Jason Arquette.
I think so.
Yeah, it was ridiculously kind of funny, right? But it was kind of also at the end, it was a really horrible twist. And it
Yeah,
was
it
a
always
good
had the
slasher movie.
twist of like one of the kids was like the killer or involved in something. It
He
wasn't
killed
just like
himself.
some random guy.
He was being forced by somebody else to do it. Some, I don't remember. Again, man, I mean, these movies really aren't substantive, are they? They kind of flitter away. They're like really like vaporware. Once you watch them, they stop becoming a thing. Then you have to rewatch them to kind of reinvest.
Yeah, yeah, I don't have like real vivid memories of the plots of all the movies that I've seen
Right.
over the years with these.
What sticks out is the character, the slasher himself, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jason and Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers are probably the three most iconic slasher characters.
I'm looking at a
Uh,
picture of a character called Candyman.
oh yes, Candyman.
What is it? The monster of urban legend was more bitter than sweet. I'm reading an article, whatever it is. One of those scrolling. Hate those, man. Those listicles.
Oh yeah.
They do it one at a time. And why can't you just give me the whole article on one page? It's so retarded. I have a website. I know how it works. This is just clickbaiting me, and I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's full of
Ridiculously.
ads.
Oh yeah. Well, I have an ad block. Just wasting my time basically. I don't see any ads on this. You saw Candyman though?
Oh yeah, I loved Candyman.
I've never seen it. Looks like a vampire movie, kind of. It's a disgusting picture.
It's Yeah, it's a strange movie, and if you've ever read the book, it's even stranger.
Oh, is a book associated with it too? Okay, who wrote the book?
Yeah, it's Clive Barker, and
Clive
it's
Barker.
not called Candyman. I think it's what is it, The Forbidden or The Forsaken or something? It's called. I don't know. I can't remember, but
Clive
It
Barker is still alive.
yeah. Yeah, it was a very short book. It was kind of in between a short story and a novella.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know, the book just had this like disturbing vibe to it when I read it.
That
It
dude
like
wrote the
just
Hellraiser
was
series too.
yeah, yep. He wrote Hellraiser, which is surprising. There's so many movies, but only one book for the
So
first one.
there's two actually. So the Scarlet Gospels came out in 2015.
Oh,
It
is
was
there another one now, huh?
a 29-year gap. He must have needed some money.
Wow.
I
Yeah. Because he
don't know.
wasn't writing for a while.
Yeah, he hasn't written. Well, he's sporadic. He's sporadic. He wrote his first book in '85, and he's had one come out, give or take 5 or 6 years between Mr. Maximilius Bacchus and his Traveling Circus was 2009. I guess that was his. So for some odd reason, this list is not in chronological order. They're all over the place. But
Mm.
2015, the sequel to Hellraiser was his last book.
Hmm. I'm gonna
He's
have to check that out.
he's a director though. What does he do? He's comic. He is just a straight writer, isn't he?
Actually, I think when he took a hiatus from writing, he got into painting. He's been doing a lot of art.
Interesting. Gods and Monsters, executive producer on that. Why does that sound familiar? Oh, it's just a movie. Anyway, I mean, yeah, Candyman. I've not seen it. Looks horrible though.
No, it's good. Especially if you have a fear of bees,
Oh, is that what
it's
it's in his
definitely
mouth?
scary.
Bees?
It's yeah, it's about this guy and um he was killed. Like a mob came after him because he slept with this guy's daughter or was romantically involved with her, and they tied him up and covered him in honey and just let bees cover him, and that's how he died. So he
Interesting.
came back and he like opens his like body or whatever, and all these bees come out, and he's got like a this curved knife thing that he kills people with.
Can you die from these things like that?
Yeah.
Like you're not allergic?
Yeah, I don't know if
The
he was
average
allergic
person
or
can
not,
safely
but
tolerate 10 stings per pound of body weight.
yeah, in
So,
the movie, I mean, he was like
oh,
thousands of
really?
bees just completely covered him, like, went inside his mouth, just horrific.
That's a lot of bees, though, right? 10 per pound. I mean, just if you weigh 189 pounds, it's like 1,800 bees.
Yeah.
How many bees are in a colony? How many? I don't know why I'm digging into Candyman so much. Bees and hive. Just wondering
I
how
know
many
it's a
hives there
lot.
would be. Yeah, there is actually. It looks like 60,000 honeybees are in like a larger hive. So
Yeah.
one hive could kill you, I guess.
Definitely. Definitely. I'd say.
Interesting. Well, we've discovered that you do not want to get stung by a hive of honeybees.
No.
Uh, would you consider it a slasher movie? I wouldn't consider it a slasher
I
movie.
don't no, I don't think so because it's more supernatural. I think
Kind of more
the
kaiju, right?
slasher has
Like a
to
monster type situation,
yeah,
a big bad monster,
he's more of a creature that takes the
a
form of
creature.
a
Yeah.
clown.
Hmm.
But I think
Absolutely.
the slasher has to have some kind of humanoid and physical, even if it's supernatural or undead or something like that, has to have some kind of human characteristic to it.
This, yeah, I think so too, right? You're not exactly sure. It's kind of dead. It's kind of like a zombie in a way, right? I mean, can you say that a slasher movie is kind of a
Yeah,
sideways
zombie
jump from
or
a zombie movie?
or
Because
a ghoul or
they're
like
unstoppable, right? I mean, that's part of it, isn't it? You can't stop them. They're always going to come. And you know
yeah.
when they go down, they're going to come right back at you. I mean, how do you kill a slasher? How do you kill slashers? I mean, that's part of it, isn't it? Because they don't ever die.
Unless you make a really bad movie. That's the one way to kill
Exactly.
them.
The Driller. How do you kill it? Bad scripting. I cannot type. Got a new keyboard, and I swear to God, it's like different language. Best ways to kill slashers. How do you think?
I don't know. It depends on I mean, no, Jason, you can't kill him. They've tried many times.
What is Jason? I mean,
Yeah,
what is
Jason.
Jason? Jason, what is his name? Myers? No, Jason.
Jason Voorhees.
What is Jason Voorhees? You have an answer?
I don't know. He's like undead, I guess. He drowned in that lake and then for some reason came back and just started killing everyone.
His mom like was killing people in the first one, wasn't she?
I th- I think so. I know it has something to do with his mother.
I
Trying to
love that.
remember.
I love the original movies that have nothing to do with what ends up becoming the franchise over time.
Yeah, the original idea that didn't have all the weird backstory or all
Yeah.
the extra stuff added in. It was just a crazy guy you knew not. That was kind of what was scary about it. You don't know what it is or who it is or why it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? I'm looking, there's a lot of words on the Wikipedia for Jason Voorhees, and you can't just really just scan it for what he is, because I guess nobody does exactly what you just said. Nobody knows exactly what he is. He's just an undead monster. There's a picture of like a weirdly shaped human thing. I don't know what that means. You don't see his face at all. He's huge, isn't he? In all the movies, isn't he gigantic?
Yeah, he's
Kind of
pretty
like, yeah,
big.
like
I
real
think
stocky and strong.
I think the only one where he took his mask off was Jason Takes Manhattan. In the end of the movie, he takes his mask off and his face is all rotten and grotesque.
I don't know if I can do this with Hangouts. I guess I can email it to you. I'll send you a picture that I just pulled off of Wikipedia, and maybe you could tell me what it is. I can't recognize. I don't recognize it at all. Just it's like makeup being applied to somebody. Amazing how annoyed I get at having to type 3 letters to look for your email when my entire life is so easy. And I don't have to search for water to survive. So I went ahead and sent it to you. You should get it in a second. But I've never seen that before. So I mean, actually, I've seen Jason Takes Manhattan, and when he does take off his mask, it's a monster face, right? It's horrible.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not. It's
horrific.
right. It's like hell. It's like a demon. It's like not even living something, whatever. It's like black and decayed flesh or whatever. But what I just sent you, if you could see it, I don't know. It's kind of like a deformed human being.
Yeah, let me see. Refreshing the page, see if it pops up.
Using Gmail, it's like the worst one to expect emails in. It's like sometimes it
Yes.
loads, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a minute.
When you expect, it's like they know they're just screwing with you. We'll hold on to this. Wait, it's
Oh,
important to
there it
them.
goes. Oh, this.
Does that look familiar to you? Is that in the first movie? Because that's the only way I would have missed it.
I Yeah, I think that was like a scene of him as a child or something like after he had drowned. That's hard to remember.
In one of the sequels.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It might have been the
So Jason
second one.
Voorhees drowned, and his mother took revenge and killed all the camp counselors, or something along those lines, right?
I think that's what the story is. Yeah.
And it's a trope, obviously, the camp counselor thing. I mean, there's bunches of slasher movies that take place in camps or whatever.
Yeah.
But did this one start that, or is this just a variation of that same trope that was done better than the rest?
Yeah, that's hard to I'm not sure. It's hard to say if
Lee, you're
that
supposed to
was
know
the
this. You're my
start
right.
of that or not.
You're my expert, man. You're my expert. No, it's really fascinating because people love this stuff, right? They love the slasher movies,
I
and
mean, it
then
must have come from somewhere.
they have to have come from someplace, right? I mean,
Yeah.
let's think about literature. Where does this stuff kind of come from? I mean, we have our first slasher movie. What was it? Was it the I don't know, man. I'm thinking that Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, right? Maybe that was one of the first ones.
That
Isn't
was
that
definitely one of the earlier ones. And a lot's known for that because it was based on a true event. Uh, so that's definitely one of the ones that started it because I think the whole entire slasher genre is based on the whole serial killer craze in the 70s, late
Uh,
60s and the 70s,
it's
because
very interesting, right? But you've had murderers like that before, haven't you? But was it because it was sensationalized in the news media that it kind of took off?
I think so, because I think you probably had some violent crimes like that, but the more it was shown in the media, the more, I don't know, maybe the way I see it, crazy people get inspired by that probably. You see that and you're like, "Oh, I could do that." If you're
I mean, what man? If you look at what inspires serial killers, it seems to be sex, doesn't it? Like you go through the list, they're all inspired by some kind of thing they're missing in their lives. This kind of, you know, sex play,
Yeah,
whatever it is, right? Like that's the real thing that's happening. Like in the real world, if you go and visit Jeffrey Dahmer before they executed him, and I say, dude, what's up with you? And he goes, porn, right? Or you go, not Jeffrey Dahmer. That dude just wanted a decent meal, I guess. I'm talking. No, the other guy, who died in Florida, the real crazy guy that, what was it? It's not Jeffrey Dahmer. Is that Jeffrey Dahmer? No, he's Minnesotan, right?
yeah, was it Ed Gein?
Oh man, they all have this thing with sex kind of mixed up in it. Unless you add in like Son of Sam, he didn't have a sex thing, I don't think.
Yeah.
But he was kind of killing
Yeah, but
people who were having sex in their cars or something,
yeah, well, that's the thing always in the movies. That's like the cardinal rule: don't have sex in a horror movie, you'll die.
right? So maybe
And
there's
then
another
that's got
trope,
to, and yeah, another trope based on reality, because, and at the same time, the serial killers, it's always there's a lot of something sexual about it. But then, the psychologists and things that people that study that stuff say it's not really about the sex. It's about the power or the control, or, and it just translates into that somehow.
for the serial killer, the power, the sex, the power and control. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's real life stuff, but you don't really see it, right? In movies like, I don't know, Psycho, was there sex in there? I mean, he did kill the girl in the shower, but he dressed like his mom, but he didn't have sex with anybody. The reason he killed that woman is not for sex, right? He didn't have sex with the body afterward, did he?
Yeah, no, definitely not.
I mean, not in 1960 anyway.
Yeah, actually, if you think of that, all right. So if we're looking at the first slasher, that's before
Pretty
Texas
close, right?
Chainsaw. Yeah.
That precedes it completely. Texas Chainsaw is in 1974. And then even before, maybe even before that, Peeping Tom. I've never heard of it.
Peeping Tom. It sounds familiar.
Oh, okay. Actually, this Wikipedia article is saying that it goes back to a form of Italian cinema, Giallo, Giallo. It's an Italian
Oh,
thriller or horror
um,
genre of literature and
hmm.
film, specifically mystery elements, slasher, crime fiction, psychological thrillers. Now, this is claiming that it came from that in the
Yeah, and
1960s. So not
and
much
before
earlier.
that, it probably came from like
Detective
detective
fiction? Yeah, I was thinking
yeah,
noir,
probably. And over
but I
the
mean,
years, it just got more and more extreme.
I guess maybe it is trying to add a supernatural excuse to some of the violence that we are seeing in the 60s and the 70s. I mean, the world is odd then, right? I mean, we're 15 years away or outside of World War II, right? Europe is still devastated. What do they say around the tables in the 1960s? Eat your food because there are kids starving in Europe or whatnot. I mean,
Yeah.
the world's a horrible, horrible place. Millions and millions of people are dying in China. You know, every single day, horrible things are happening. Nobody's saying anything, right? The 1950s, 1960s, everybody's pretending it's really awesome. People are being lied to about the health benefits of cigarettes, and I don't know,
The
man.
50s always has this nostalgia to it, that it was this great time, but at the same time, there was a lot
It's
of
a
bad
nightmare.
stuff happening in the
Yeah,
background.
racism, right? The South,
Yeah.
the Jim Crow laws, women's women's rights were being stomped on left and right. Misogyny was the rule of the day. I mean, racism was the number one. I mean, if you were a communist, if you felt like felt like that was a good political system, you right away were shut down. Your right freedom. There were no rights to freedom of speech or whatever during the 1950s. A horrible time to be
Yeah.
alive. Horrible time. And then
Yeah.
having the internet, people had to
And it's
talk to
so
each other.
it's very glorified, the 50s.
Yeah, it is. What do they say? Idealized, absolutely. But they were lying, right? I mean, there was a hidden danger there. Everything was kind of, and there's two wars going on, Korea, and then followed up by Vietnam. People were dying. But what does that have to do with the slasher film, right? Is it just because it's an
I
unseen kind of, or that contribute to the violence?
I think it has a lot to do with it because uh, throughout history and in my knowledge of horror in general, the worse things are in real life, the better the genre gets. The better the movies are, the better the books are. You get a lot more, and I
So is
think that's
Psycho
a
based on a real thing?
that I don't think so. Not that I know of.
Pull up Psycho. Joseph Stefano wrote the screenplay. Was it an original work? I think it might have been. Oh no, I'm sorry. Robert Bloch wrote the novel of the same name in 1959, and it was. Oh, he wrote two sequels. You ever see Psycho all the way through? I always watch it right up to the shower scene.
Yeah, I've seen the whole thing, and then I watched the remake, which was interesting because it was a remake scene. It wasn't like a remake where they just tried to make their own thing out of it. It was scene for scene,
Oh,
like
I remember that.
identical.
Who did that? Somebody interesting. I don't think even Gus Van Sant or
Oh,
something like that.
who was it? I can't think of his name. I know who he is, but I'm bad with names.
It's not Gus Van Sant though. What's Gus Van Sant? So it was a scene by scene remake of the whole thing, just in
Yeah,
color, just in modern technology.
yeah.
Yeah,
If you watched
interesting.
them side by side, it would literally scene by scene, just everything matched up perfectly. They didn't
It's
change a
interesting.
thing.
$60 million budget for that. Brian Grazer. I don't know. I've not seen it all the way through. I was interested in watching it at one point. It just doesn't capture. It didn't captivate me immediately. It was very slow. For a kid, trying to watch a horror movie, it doesn't really sit well. If we're an adult who's trying to have a cinematic experience, it works well. But for a kid who wants that jolt, it's not going to fly, I don't think.
Yeah, it is a slow movie. It is.
So 1960, man. I mean, you can't back it up any farther than that. We're really running into problems even explaining exactly why they even exist. I mean, obviously, they are to create terror, right? Absolute and utter terror. That's their whole thing. They're terror porn.
Yeah, I think it's also a breakaway from all the atomic age films in the 50s too. And those were things that were fantastical and science based. And the slasher films were more return to reality, horror that's like potentially real. You have
Reality, though, I mean, you're absolutely getting killed. You don't even know it. You're just doing your thing, right? You're hooking up with your girlfriend, you're trick or treating, you're going to camp, you're doing your sweet little everyday things. And then all of a sudden, somebody shows up and shoves an axe into your skull or something. You know what I mean? It's like it's all of a sudden you don't even know it's going to happen, and everybody else around you is going to be plagued with the nightmare of your death, right? I mean, it's not normal for that to happen typically,
no, but
except in the 60s and
it's
70s.
yeah.
It was horrible. I mean, there's tons of stuff to say that this is typical. Another slasher type film, which kind of flipped it on its ear, is Taxi Driver, isn't it? Except he didn't
Yeah.
use a knife. He used
Yeah.
a gun. He actually didn't he have a knife too? Doesn't matter. I mean, it showed the slasher from the monster's point of view, gave him more credit. Not credit, gave him more what humanity.
Yeah, that's the thing about the slasher films is the humanity. It's not a creature or some kind of monster. It's something that's human or almost human.
Yeah, do you feel bad for Michael Myers knowing that he was a kid that has been catatonic for decades and locked into a room that potentially, I don't know, maybe it can help him. He's not a monster, really. He's just ill or something. And then he can't die and he doesn't stop. But originally, I mean, he's
Yeah.
a little kid, right? You get to see him as a little kid before he kills his
Yeah, I don't
sister
know.
and goes to an
There's a lot
insane
of
asylum.
disagreements with that because, like, I think that was in the Rob Zombie remake where they show him as a kid, right?
I don't
And
think
then
I think they even did it in the original one because I'm not quite certain, but the first scene is very similar. Obviously, different actors or whatever, but I think that starts out with the brother killing the sister in the first one. Then the music starts and it shows him in kind of a time lapse growing up in an insane asylum before he escapes, goes back to his town, and Halloween is starting. He's standing in front of his home, his former home, and you're wondering if he's going to kill like a bunch of girls or something. You're standing in front of it, but it's hard though because they're all the same. So was that number one or was that seven? You know,
yeah, that's unless you've seen them 100 times, it's
and made really extensive notes because I imagine the more you've seen them, the more confused you're going to be about what exactly you've seen. I mean,
yeah.
damn, I don't know if we talked about it, but ask my mom about a James Patterson book that she's read, and she won't be able to tell you one character's name or what exactly happened,
Yeah,
but she
there's
will
so
tell you
many
that
of
she
them.
enjoyed it. Right? Just all blends together. It had something to do with the Earth and politics. I don't know. So you've never written a slasher story.
No, I don't think I have. No, no.
What's most important, do you think? Caring that the protagonist lives,
I don't
caring
know. I
about
mean,
the monsters. I mean, as a writer, as a person who's developing the story, do you think it's most important to create a compelling protagonist that the audience wants to live, or creating a freaking scary ass monster that nothing is going to stop?
I think the monster because that's always the icon of the movie is the slasher themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
when you think of Nightmare on Elm Street, you just Freddy Krueger comes to mind.
And Freddy
You know,
Krueger's
Friday.
another one that has a sad story, right? He was accused of being a child molester, burnt
Yeah, and
alive, right? He was innocent, I think, or he was not innocent. Was he a bad guy? He was a bad guy.
I'm not sure because the remake showed him, kind of hinted at him being innocent.
Maybe that's where it's coming from then. It's amazing how that kind of stuff smudges the public
The
persona.
original,
Yeah.
yeah, because the whole persona originally was that he was just evil, as far as I can remember.
I always thought there was a child molestation element to it. He was accused, or maybe he was one and was burned alive, right? Burned
Yeah,
to
yeah,
death.
that
Now,
part's for sure.
now he haunts dreams, which is really cool. That's one that I've not really seen a lot of. That one kind of freaked me out a little bit. I did not like Freddy Krueger at all. He was a little bit too funny. Ha ha, you know?
Yeah, he was. Oh, the one-liners.
And he sucked Johnny Depp into the waterbed, which really was kind of freaky. That
Yeah,
was
that's
scary.
an iconic scene.
Yeah, it was magic. You couldn't stop him because you couldn't fall asleep. And I like sleep, you know? I mean, you want your monsters places where you can fight them, and being exhausted from lack of sleep and then falling asleep, those are two things that kind of freak me out. But I mean, I can handle Mike Myers. I can handle a Jason because they're there physically with you at least, even though nothing is going to stop them. Um, I don't know, man. What do we have in terms of awesome slashers? Are there good slashers out there that we're just not aware of?
Yeah, I mean, there are some really bad ones. Those are always my favorite, but
I was
like
just looking, Jason
Babysitter
Voorhees.
Massacre, uh, The Ice Cream Man, which was, you know, a completely ridiculous movie, but I loved it.
They
Um,
don't stick around though, do they? I mean, you can make a slasher about anything, but what makes an interesting slasher? Like, why didn't the Ice Cream Man
yeah.
stick around? What was wrong with him?
I don't think the
So
character was
side
like
by
I
side.
mean, other than the movie just being just a
Bad.
terrible movie. I don't think he was iconic enough. He didn't have that. Michael Myers had the white William Shatner
Oh
mask.
my God, that's so good, man.
Yeah,
So
and
good.
and Jason had the hockey mask and the machete, and they all had their own little theme music. Like when Jason was coming, you knew it because you heard the music.
Yeah. Oh my
The
God, the music in both of those, right?
Yeah,
The Halloween music is my favorite horror movie music of all time. I'm trying to think what Friday the 13th is. I'm gonna get taken off of YouTube if I play it Friday the 13th.
I know it was that little there was that children's song. I can't remember how it went though. And in one of the movies, it was you heard the song and it was zooming up to the house. There's a red tricycle. It
Red
was
Truck.
1, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door, something like that.
That was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And
I
Friday the 13th was the that noise.
so it's not gonna be the theme song. Did you hear that when I just played it? Or was it
No.
only my ears? Okay, it was just in my ears. Okay. I don't know. It's very violin-y. I guess that's the thing, right? I remember the Friday the 13th, the first one. There is a girl who's basically hitchhiking the camp, right? And she's going through this town, and people are kind of warning her off. Is that how it starts?
Oh, I can't even remember, to be honest. I haven't seen it in so long.
See, I mean, you're going to publish like 13, 15 movies in a series. That's what's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, you
You're gonna
start to lose track of which what happened when.
you're gonna start confusing the stuff, and I think that's why
Yeah.
we're starting to see a lot of the genre bending stuff nowadays. Like with Cabin in the Woods, that was kind of a slasher movie, right? Or a haunting movie, or a blend of a bunch of stuff, and it just
Yeah, it was
ended in
kind
this
of a blend, yeah. It's
blend
hard
of
to
what's going on. Is it a haunting? Is it a witch? Is it haunted? Are they cursed? I mean, yeah, it's got a unicorn in it. I mean, I love that movie. That was so good.
Yeah, it was a good one.
No, is that a haunting? Is that a slasher movie? Again, like we
Yeah,
said, this was a
I
blend.
don't know. I don't think it's specifically a slasher movie, but it's got elements of a lot of different stuff in it. You have
Yeah,
the cabin in the woods thing, you've got the Evil
girls.
Dead supernatural vibe, and then you've got like the supernatural vibe and the creatures and just a whole bunch of stuff thrown in there.
Yeah. Let's see. I've lost all of my notes. Everything is gone. I love when I type a question into a search bar without looking at what the page is and just lose everything.
Uh
um, what are you working on right now? Are you just hanging out? Do you have a novel working or
yeah, I've got too many things going on at once right now to be honest. Trying to figure out how I'm gonna meet all the deadlines.
yeah, that's crazy, man. I can't imagine
Yeah.
having like an editor job on top of writing also
Yeah, it's rough. Cool.
dealing with other people's stuff.
It's a lot. It's a
Um,
lot of work.
do you like it? I must like it though.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. It's great. I mean,
Do you think it makes
it's
you a
what I
better
wanted
writer?
to do. I think so, yeah, because you get a lot of see different styles of writing, and you're always learning new words that you didn't know because someone uses a word and you have to look it up to make sure you understand the meaning properly, and so you're learning new stuff all the time, seeing different styles and ideas and the way people do write things, and
Do you ever read for fun? Do you read for fun anymore?
um, not as much as I used to. Uh, I want to. I wish I could, but a lot of my reading goes into editing now.
It must be
Uh,
frustrating. I mean, you have to stay up with what's happening in the world of writing, right?
yeah, yeah.
What's going on out there? I mean, you can't trust the people that you're reading to know what's happening potentially. I don't know. I mean, that's got to be the hardest part. Huh. The Jersey Devil. Are you familiar with that myth?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, a writer, Hunter Shea, wrote a book about that.
How did he handle it, or they handle it?
You know, I haven't actually gotten around to reading it yet. I have the book, and it's in my to-read pile.
It's strange. I mean, that's not though. I mean, if you wrote a story about the Jersey Devil, that's going to be more of a kaiju monster movie more than it is going to be a slasher, right?
Yeah, more of like urban legend kind of a deal.
These are very similar concepts. The kaiju monster movie, monster book type thing, and the slasher thing. One kind of deals with more humanoid, but they're monsters. I mean, Michael Myers is a monster. Jason Voorhees is a monster straight up, and you can't argue otherwise, right? I mean, they don't die.
Definitely.
There's
Yeah,
something
they're
other
definitely monsters.
like supernatural happening with them. So, I mean, are we talking about the same type of thing? If I wrote a story about a Jersey Devil that doesn't stop, like you killed its baby or something, so it's constantly coming after you, and it uses its claws to kill its victims, and it's, gonna kill until it dies, is that a slasher movie or is that a monster movie? And
Hmm.
if you count it as a monster movie, can you also count that, what is it, the Liam Neeson Alaska Wolf movie? Is that a slasher movie? Because those wolves
Hmm.
didn't stop coming.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say, I guess. I mean, because it's a fine line because the Jersey Devil is sort of humanoid, I guess. And but it's not. But it's a little more of a creature than I think Jason or Freddy or any of those are.
So I mean, but yeah, but they don't ever talk to you, Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. They're never gonna tell you why they're doing it. They're never gonna reason
Yeah,
with you,
that
right? I
was
mean,
the one difference between Freddy Krueger. He always had something to say.
always, right? His mouth was constantly moving when he was on the movie on the screen. Um, and those are the big guys: Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Mike Myers. There's really nobody else that compares. I guess Psycho, right?
But Psycho didn't have 20 sequels.
Psycho did have a bunch though, didn't it? At least two.
There was a Psycho 2, I know.
I thought there was a few more after that. I thought it turned out to be a big series. Maybe I'm wrong. Three, four. There's four Psycho movies.
Oh, see, oh, I didn't even know about that one.
1990 was the last one. And there's a Psycho television series that was on TV for 4 years too. Did you check that out? It's supposed to be really good.
No, I haven't seen that.
It's supposed to be a comedy. It's interesting. I did not know it was supposed to be a comedy.
Hmm.
So, I mean, Psycho is your first big slasher movie, but it really tells the story of a serial killer. The Black,
Yeah.
I mean, there's other ones that do that too, right? And there was the Black Delilah tells a story, or the Silence of the Lambs. I mean, these slasher movies too. They have a serial killer element to them. I don't know, man. I'm not really
Yeah.
getting what
Like
is. I mean, I
Silence of the
guess
Lambs, I wouldn't call it a slasher because of the story arc. Like it's more of a police procedural serial killer movie almost.
because she's not being hunted, she's hunting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's not
So you
being
want that hunt.
hunted.
You want that search. You want that. Are they going to get away?
Yeah, I think that's a key element for a slasher movie is the hunt and the
And
game.
there has to be an awareness too, right? Like the bad guy's coming, but they don't know until it's too late, and then they run to their
Yeah.
lives, right? I mean, there has to be people that disappear. Like, hey, where's John? I don't know. He was here a second ago, but we know that John is hanging from the ceiling by a scythe or something.
Yeah, yeah. The audience is more aware than the characters half the time.
Really works well in movies.
Because
Has to
that's
work
what
well.
builds the tension. You're worried, oh, they're gonna get killed. They don't know.
Yeah, because you can see. I mean, the director can pick the angles or whatnot, so you can only see what he allows you to see. And I guess in a novel, it does the same thing, right? But I mean, how many times can you kind of do that? Jump cut stuff. I read a bunch of Dinar Kuntz when I was a kid, and I think he does slasher things pretty well. He has these supernatural characters that kind of hunt and kill and capture. You have to come rescue the whatever it is. And he had this one that was hermaphroditic that basically had sex with itself and produced a child. This gigantic, like 500-pound, muscular man monster that produced itself by having or something odd. It was so strange, but I mean that's kind of a slasher movie or story too, right? I mean, just have something so otherworldly, you're not going to stop it
Yeah.
potentially, but why? It has to have a reason for doing what it's doing. Freddy Krueger's revenge, Michael Myers' desire to kill every single member of his family.
Yeah, I guess just psychological issues.
He
Just
wanted to
crazy.
kill all the Myers. What was Voorhees' thing? He was just a monster. It was a curse. It was the ancient
Yeah,
Indian curse of hockey players or something.
I think it was the anger of drowning and his connection with his mother and it's really like his mother's vengeance being channeled through him almost.
But then we're talking about this like maybe it matters, but maybe it doesn't matter. Like people who go see these movies, they like the jump cuts, don't they? They like the blood. They like the potentiality of nudity, right? They don't really want to care the psychological makeup of Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. They just want an unstoppable killing machine.
Yeah, I think it's scarier. And
Do people
then
still
you have
like that
some
stuff?
movies that are completely ridiculous, like The Ice Cream Man, which is a terrible movie again. But
I've never heard of it. What was his motivation?
his motivation was that he, as a child, watched the local ice cream man get shot down accidentally in a drive-by shooting.
Huh? So you
And
become a
so,
murderer. Why? That's absolutely
yeah,
100% happens. It's accurately
makes total
accurate.
sense.
No, that's not just total sense. It's psychologically true. Obviously, that happens. I mean, every Vietnam vet's a serial killer. That's what happened when they went over there. It's horrible tragedy. I don't know, man. That's interesting. So, what are some other ones that you saw that have this kind of ridiculous kind of backstory to them?
What was it?
That's like a great superhero origin story too. It's like he could have gone either way. He could have been Ice Cream Man, the savior, or Ice Cream Man,
Yeah.
the revenger of drive-by shooters. I don't know. I mean, they kind of steal from each other, don't they? I mean, it's like the writer can just decide at certain points along the way, this is going to be a slasher story. This is going to be a something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
Vulnerabilities. You want a human slasher, and you want it to be unstoppable. You don't even want there to be a way for there to be a to stop, but you want it to be able to take pain, right? You want it to take damage. Like you want to shoot Michael Myers in the face, and you want to see the Captain Kirk mask kind of melt away or something, right? I mean, you want to see that Michael Myers takes damage. He just continues to come at you no matter what.
Yeah, you can
Right.
slow him down a little bit, but that's about it.
For a second. But that bullet hole,
Yeah.
or that gigantic shotgun wound, in his chest is not going to do anything really, because his corporeal body isn't really what's propelling him. It's something else, right? And making his muscles work. Or non-corporeal body. Which one is it? It's corporeal.
Yeah, it's like an invincible corporeal body. Like, no matter what happens to him, he's just gonna come back.
He's always going to come back, even after the movie's over with. And when Rob Zombie directs a horrible sequel to his first successful attempt, is he going to do a third one?
Yeah. That's what I think I saw something about that. Yeah.
I thought so too. It's been a while. I thought he was
Yeah.
gone. Be interesting to see that third one kind of redone. I've never been able to watch it all the way through. It's so bizarre. I don't even know how it fits into the series. I guess it doesn't, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of out there.
So, what do you think, man? Is there anything that we didn't cover about slashers that we probably should have mentioned that you looked up that is interesting?
Um I mean, one of my favorite slasher movies is Motel Hell. I don't
I've
know if
not
you've
seen it
heard
either.
of
What's the
that.
premise of that?
Oh, that one's very obscure. It's like this farmer and his sister, but they're like kind of weird together. And what they do is they capture people. They have this like bed and breakfast place on a farm and everything, and they plant them in the ground as like their crops. And then once they've grown or become ripe, the guy makes beef jerky out of it and sells it.
It's horrible.
It's a strange movie. It's really unusual.
What was the movie where the brother and sister are chased down by some kind of alien thing in a black van? Jeepers
Oh, Jeepers
Creepers.
Creepers. Yeah.
That was incredibly good.
Yeah, that's almost a fine
Spooky.
line between a creature and a slasher movie too.
It's like the guy who wrote it had no clue until about 20 pages in. It's like, I don't know what this is. Let's find out. It's an alien. Okay. Was it an alien? Something like that? A monster?
Yeah, it was like a creature, some kind of monster,
I mean, it's
like
hard, right, to do this writing wise. It doesn't seem like it works very well. I can't think of many novels that pull it off. I don't read horror really typically. Yeah, I
yeah, I
like
read
it.
a lot of horror, but I haven't seen a lot of slasher horror in books.
If you
I
broaden
mean, it's
out your
gotta be
definition of
out there.
slasher, yeah, it has to be out there, right? 'Cause it's a thing. I mean, we know that Hellraiser is a slasher book, right? I mean, people write that stuff. Dino Kuntz writes that stuff. Does Stephen King write that
Yeah.
stuff? Needful Things, is that a
Um,
slasher movie book?
no, Needful Things was different. That was more of a psychological kind of thing.
The Gunslinger has the Man in Black, right? But he's not really hunting them down. They're not staying on
Yeah,
top of
he's
his head.
more of like a evil entity kind of a thing. Trying to think what would be the closest thing to a slasher book he's written.
What was that
Probably,
called? Misery, maybe Misery. I don't know. He wasn't hunted until the end, right? I
yeah.
mean, kind of hunted at the end,
And then
moments.
there's Mr. Mercedes, but it's not really a slasher. He's more of a
Detective,
like
right?
a like a mass murderer
Oh, okay.
detective story.
Yeah. But that goes right into what we just talked about earlier, being that maybe slasher movie or slasher genre is connected to the noir, the detective stories of the
Yeah,
1910s or whatever.
yeah,
It's very interesting that it came out of nowhere. I mean, it does kind of echo the violence that we're seeing, the serial killers, the disappearances, the Manson family, the things like that were occurring in the 60s and 70s, the Vietnam War being horrible, and the things that we know that soldiers did over there. I mean, these are echoes, right? All this stuff is like we know happens. We read articles about it, just horrible, nasty things that people are doing to each other during that era, that time. The president's
yeah.
lying
Movies
to
and
us.
fiction always reflect on that. Always reflect on the times.
So that's then. Now we're not really getting too many slasher films, are we? That
We're
have
getting
this kind of
some here and there.
not
They've
like we
they've always
were,
stuck
right?
around, but it's the 80s the 70s and 80s were really the
The
golden
heyday.
age of slasher.
90s, we didn't really have any too much superhero movies started to become big in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And the slasher doesn't have any power over the superhero. The superhero stops them, doesn't he? I mean, is the Vulture kind of a slasher type character in Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man movie that came out? If you watch that kind of stuff,
Oh, I
these
haven't seen that
villains,
yet.
these villains get stopped, right? I mean, they get put into prison. They always come back in comic books. Are they kind of slashers? These characters? They're
I don't
criminals,
you know,
bad guys. I mean, that's so interesting,
I
right? I
guess
mean,
some of the villains in comic books could be considered slashers. Like take the Joker from Batman. I guess he's sort of a slasher kind of character.
he's human though. I guess he's like a Freddy Krueger version, right? Always joking, always ready. He uses a gun. The Ninja Turtles, isn't there an act? No, Shredder. I don't know, man. Slashers are incredibly interesting. Where do you think the genre is going to go? Do you think it's going to stick around? It's got to, right? It's made millions of dollars.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's never
People like
really
that
gone
stuff.
away. It's just gone out of the spotlight.
People want
Um,
answers though, don't they? I mean, in terms of like Jason Voorhees, I look at his Wikipedia page and I see 1,000 words on nothing. I mean, there was like no substance there that I could pull out just by glancing through it. So, I mean, people want to be able to describe why they like stuff. They want a backstory. They want like a fandom. Can you have that with a Jason Voorhees without really knowing what he is per se, as opposed to like he's a dead kid that
yeah, I mean, I guess the best thing you can do is theorize, come up with your own ideas. You know, you could really just theorize about what that is and why it happened.
next movie they'll just change it up on you again?
Yeah.
Just change it up because the story requires it. It's the best part about it. Well, slashers are elusive. I have no clue, honestly. I guess we have discovered that they need to be somewhat human and inhuman and unstoppable. And that's basically it.